Welcome back. We're talking about Move Out and Draw Fire, Wargame Rules for Bush and Proxy Wars, 1953 to 1979 by yours truly. I would like to talk a little bit about the appendices that are in the works, as well as a few other things about the wargame. I guess first, when I looked at adding the tracked vehicle rules again, infantry actions had some rules, but I found them to be insufficient. I wanted to harken back to Tractics, which was another rule set partially developed by Gary Gygax, and which was promulgated by TSR back in the old days. Interestingly enough, there is a company that has picked up the rights for that and have produced a new set of wargame rules for Tractics, which should be a little bit easier to play. Now, Tractics is I want to say Tractics is very, how shall we say it, complex. And so they have also developed a set of fast rules, which you can go out on Kindle, as I'm showing you here on the screen. You can get a copy of these fast rules for World War II. And the most interesting part to me was how easy it was to resolve fire, right? It all basically boils down to these tables here. And this is exactly what I was hoping for, was a set of tables which were fairly straightforward to apply and could handle a variety of situations without getting too bogged down into minutia. As you can see here, the tank, APC, truck differentiation is something that I took to heart. Now, I did my own ballistic analysis of the vehicles from the Vietnam era. I used AI to help me crunch the numbers and come up with my own tables. And that's what I'm going to flip to now, is the set of appendices. So let's look at the appendix for the ballistic stuff. I think that's going to be Appendix F, right? So U.S. and ARVN forces have typically these three main vehicles, these three main APCs that were used, these three main trucks, and I wanted to have this data available to the gamers without putting it, this complexity is abstracted away with the dice rolls that I achieved. But if you wanted to tweak your own rules, this data would be necessary to have rules that are consistent, and so I think putting this stuff in an appendix is necessary and fair so that people don't have to start from scratch to do their analysis. And as you can see, I cover all of the forces that I have decided would be on that battlefield. Let's look at some of the other appendices. So that's Appendix, what is this? Appendix F. Appendix E is the Foreign Legion versus the Viet Minh folks. So now we're talking about the time covered by the rule set. Rule set covers 1953. So I don't want to go pre-1953. So this analysis is based on 1954 as best I can tell. And again, there are some books that I use to upload to Claude to help it understand the force structure and how things were probably organized on both sides of the conflict at that point in time, during that very narrow window between January 53 through the fall of Dien Bien Phu in 54. I think I've got a decent feel for what's out there. Now, I will have to clean up some of this stuff. I don't think I need some of these columns there, but in general, the goal here was to have canned forces that you could just lay on the table fairly easily. Appendix G was some of my analysis for penetration, ballistic. I don't know that I'm going to include this or not. I guess I could for people that really want to do their own number crunching on this. Most likely I'm not going to put this in. But be assured, I did the work. The work is right here on the screen. If you want to do your own work, feel free to. And I've got the prompts and everything else. Reach out to me if you want to do a project like this. I can give you some pointers. Appendix D is the Australian Anzac forces So the Kiwis and the Aussies were in that conflict with us. There's a great movie called Danger Close. I encourage you to go watch. As a matter of fact, I think I referenced that in the bibliography. Appendix C is going to be Arvin. Poor Arvin, guys. They really didn't have much of a chance, did they? They got some shoddy equipment. They got good training. Some of them were effective. The effectiveness was hampered by the actions of the NLF, the National Liberation Force, which, in my mind, not only hemmed in the political situation in the provinces, but also led to some infiltration of Arvin as well, which hampered the effectiveness of the units themselves, despite the bravery of individual soldiers and the excellence of some individuals as well, in both the NCO and officer corps. There are also rules in here for the SIDG forces and the Rough Puffs, the regional forces and the popular forces that were used to defend the hamlets during strategic hamlet program, things like that. Appendix B is your mainline VC forces, your VC militia, and your NVA units that were operating in the South. Certainly, you could do a counterfactual. Engagement. You could also do the Easter Offensive during '75. You could assume that some U.S. forces were introduced to try and stem the tide of the Vietnamese army rolling south of the DMZ. Appendix A is finally the U.S. forces split up between U.S. Army and Marines. I did not differentiate, right? I tried to come up with a TO&E that would have been reflective of both forces that were in theater at the time. You'll have to do some tweaking for the Marines because I served in the Army, so I've got an Army bias. Certainly the Marines were very storied and decorated based on their excellence in theater, especially operations in Way and things like that, Quezon, etc. So, yeah, embassy defense, you name it, the Marines were there. Okay, that's the appendices. Now let's flip over and look at the table. So one of the other things was, when I grew up, the soldiers that I had to play with were almost exclusively these Tim Me style platoon guys. So this guy is armed with what actually in fact is a French light machine gun, but most of these guys are armed with M16s instead of M14s, but they had recoilless rifles. You've got platoon attached. You've got your organic mortar teams that were assigned. You've still got flamethrowers in operation in Vietnam. You've, of course, got bayonets. There was a famous bayonet charge in Operation Silver Bayonet by Hal Moore's units. And then you've got these officers that have pistols. You've got NCOs that have they're doing the Iron Mike here. And I tried to paint up some of these guys to be African-American, but obviously the European features, if you're close to them on the table, you can tell they're Europeans. But I tried to put in a mix of both African-Americans and Caucasian soldiers because I'm not sure I got the right mix. When I first started doing the painting, I didn't even think about that. And then afterwards, like, hey, man, I need to go back and make sure that we got a little bit of representation here because these were fully integrated units. RTOs, if you haven't humped a prick 77, don't know what to tell you. It's worth doing sometime. Yeah, so you can be prone, walking, running, or kneeling in the rule set, and there are different bonuses. I don't have enough of these soldiers to do, all of the poses for all of the positions in the platoon. So I might resort to using tokens or just keep people moving from the same body position to the same body position. Where I got these was from Amazon.com, but you can get them from Tim Me or one of its authorized distributors. These are the soldiers I grew up with, and therefore I wanted to be able to put them on the table. Now, what I've also got here, and I'll do an unboxing video on this later, is a set of Italiari figures that are 25 to 28 millimeter. Actually, these are 172. And it comes with a Huey, 113, an M48, plus some Battlefield Village stuff. You might be able to see it here on the front. You got a couple of hooches. So not only can I put paper minis on the table, I can put on some real minis. And it's got 50 figures for the Vietnamese forces and 50 figures for the American forces. So this whole box set I think was like $100. You get 100 figures plus several models. I thought it was a very great value. Again, I bought this through Amazon, but there are other places where you can get this Italiari set, and I'll do an unboxing. I know what's in here. I've popped the box open, but I did not pull everything out of the box because I wanted to keep the surprise for an unboxing video. Okay, I've droned on enough about the appendices and about the action figures that I want to be able to put on the table. Definitely, the scale of the movement is for 172, 25 millimeter, 28 millimeter, no problem. These guys are twice the size. So when I put these guys on the table later to do a demo game, I am of two minds. Either I'll double the distances, which I haven't done a QRS yet, but when I do a QRS, I'll make sure the distances are doubled for these 54 millimeter figures. But I might just play through with 1 inch so I don't have as much cognitive load, because just doing the first playthrough is going to be enough cognitively. I don't think I want to burden myself. So the distances may look a little wonky because as the first playthrough on video, there will already be a lot going on in my brain. And because of cognitive overload, I am not going to do the double distances. I'm going to move these 54 millimeter figures as though they were 172 inch figures and just roll with it. I will put a caveat at the front of that video also. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. This is part 2 of a continuing series on Move Out and Draw Fire, a set of wargame rules for Bush and Proxy Wars 1953 to 1979.